So the rights have been restored, and this is why we need to start at this point and work backwards with people so they can see how it's affected their lifestyle if they choose to adopt it and stand on these exemplifications that we've set for people to follow suit, as it were, or do it for themselves rather. So things like this conversation that we were just having before we started to record, with the offer of a breathing space before the debt recovery cycle begins again. So you were just saying that there's you can apply for some kind of breathing space where they call the dogs off for a period of time, but the bottom line is
for 2 months and that's it, and then you can't do it again for another, well, I don't know how long, but at least, you know, a year or two or something. I think I remember reading. So it's but yeah, like you say, it's just postponing the it's giving the illusion of, you know, some sort of benevolent people.
It's boil the frog, isn't it? It's boiling the frog, you know, and prolonging the agony of that, laundering that liability, of it always looming up in the background. So for the breathing space of what, it's never going to leave your mind, is it? That you've still got this, you know, whether it's 2 months or 2 years, this implied burden is carried for that period of time, and it's that really is costing us our energy, and that's the price that we pay if we don't discharge that illusion of the mind that believes that whether after 2 months or 2 years that there is an unsubstantiated claim such as debt that I need to preoccupy myself with and you know, burden myself with, instead of coming to the realization that actually it was me all along, deluding myself of this illusion. So that's hopefully, you know, what we're now getting receipts for dissolving this. So the people that have done these steps and given us their situation for us to be able to use as an exemplification in all of these different places now all over the world, we have got all kinds of different circumstances now to be able to say, well, if those, you know, people relate to their own circumstances, and we can say, well, if we've got a mortgage, for example, the people who've done these steps and the process all the way through, had a claim, so they thought, laid by Skipton Building Society in the form of a mortgage. And when these process of assigning your right to shelter back to yourself and using that value that they have put on it through a redemption figure or a marketable value, that you can then use that right of use that they valued at a certain amount to discharge these charges that are outstanding, that you would have created and that you have been created all your life up until now, supporting and crediting as an unsecured creditor of a corporation belonging to the Vatican by using that which you just said earlier. You didn't have to give any details, you just had to give your name. So it was as simple as that. That's where the key lies to all of this administration. So the people who've come to that comprehension and stopped using that title followed the process in this circumstance with Skipton Building Society. Skipton Building Society were obviously asking the court for a repossession, and the court ordered, their court, nothing to do with us, their court made the order that if the creditor doesn't give us what it is that we need in order for us to be able to act upon to repossess this property through what is that, the equity, then we can't, there's nothing for us to do here, we can't act. Now, because we're the creditor and we are the secured party creditor of Her Majesty's government, and all right, on paper, this is what it all looks like. Yes, okay, UCC, we've done it all before. It's pieces of paper, it's administration. It's what you actually do with it that counts. So these people actually did these steps. And this is why we've got what we've got, because they were crazy enough, let's say, or determined enough to see this through.
Determine is definitely a better word.
It is, yeah. You know, to determine that for themselves that actually I'm going to see this through, and see if it's obviously what it is that we've said that it is and projected it to be, which is the restoration of your rights. So the right to shelter, the right to, we're just getting some feedback in here. So the rights to shelter, which were being exercised through that legal title, have been assigned elsewhere. That's what you're doing. And because it's been done in the way that they would have done it to you to take the shelter, the right to shelter from you by claiming there was a debt, this mortgage, the court and this order actually states that because we haven't got the thing that we need, which is the equity, and if we don't get the thing that we need within 28 days, then it's pointless, in other words, having the encumberment, the mortgage, connected to the title at Land Registry, and it will be removed. Now, I don't know, well, I want a bit of feedback now of what does that mean, what I just said to you, anybody? Except 1367. It means woohoo, yeah. It means jump around because it's a receipt to say the thing that we said that this would do. They're actually saying it. They're actually saying that it's peaceful surrender of the collateral. And because it's been peacefully surrendered, there's jack shit that we can do. And so in order to try to entice this one's creditor of this legal fiction back into commerce, what have they done there is they've offered to clear and clean the credit file in the hope that they will use it again. And at the point that somebody goes in there and they use it again, wham, all of it will pile up on top of them. And so it's what we're actually doing. As I was reading it, it's like the universe is building surety against us committing commerce any longer with our rights, because it's all very well turning around. And don't get me wrong, some people, as we know, they have gone and done this. Once they've discharged all of their debts, they go on and carry on making commercial, they could go on funding their own capitalistic see you next Tuesday activities, which is what they're supposed to be discharging. And it comes back and it gets them thricefold, you know. So with that lingering sentence at the bottom of this order, you know, it speaks volumes in the fact that, you know, here you go, here's the apple again, guys, come and bite it. Your credit file's clean now, and come and credit our system. In between the lines and looking at it from the perspective, it is there for everybody to see that a creditor cannot be claimed against by a debtor, and the equity separated from the title means that any administrative system that requires and relies on that equity to be there for them to exist and to act upon, once that's gone and it's reserved elsewhere, they simply have not got any point of initiation. And even saying, and unless we get it, in other words, skips and building society, bring me something that disproves this quiet title or substantiates your claim. And they know that that doesn't exist. So it will always be, you can, you know, ping it about between the jurisdictions now, because all of it's fake. It's really exposed the paper as it really is. It is just simply a piece of paper and the belief that we put behind it. And whether so, if we get that, then if we don't put our belief behind any paper and we put our belief and invest it back in what gives us the paper, which is this rock, and take our minds to that point, once you've got that's the restoration of the rights to you access your source energy without any usurping, third party interloper, without any false claim to it, because that is actually us usurping ourselves from it. When we make that claim and we say this is mine or that's mine, or you know, anything that we can't substantiate any longer, you know, it's where we step then into incriminating ourselves against our own souls, because it's not. We really know it's not, and we really know we can't prove that it is. So all we've really got to say as far as truth goes is that this illusion has been created by our own mindset. And if that is the case, then by taking that belief and ministering it elsewhere, such as, you know, back to source, where do I get my food from? You know, where's my water come from? Who am I allowing and assigning my consent to supply me with this toxic resourced? Who am I relying on representing me in any of these roles that I've found that I've been divided into, such as executor or transferee, get my teeth in, what's left of them, transferee, transferor, grantor, grantee. You were the claimant, you were the defendant, you know, you were all of these things. By putting all of these parts of yourself back together.
Yeah. So can I interject there for a moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, just I'd love to. So in your last email, you were giving me some amazing idea. You know, like there's nothing stopping me documenting all of these steps. And that's what I really want to do, is I want to bring it back to layman's terms for everyone who you know, this stuff just washes right over their heads. They have no idea. And that's been a big issue, trying to describe it to people. And yeah, if I go through it and I do that, you know, every step of the way, if I have to speak to anyone or whatever directions I've got to take, that I document it on camera, or even bare minimum a microphone over the phone, then yeah, I'm happy to do that. But I want to put together the steps in that way, you know, through layman's terms, where people can clearly see that when you do it that way, that they've not got a leg to stand on, and they dismiss the charges, because if they were to do it any other way, then they would be incriminating their own system.
There's only one step, and you pick up the phone and you say, "Hello, I'm Minister Emoven. Can you please update your records?"
That's it.
That's it. That is it, isn't it? 3067.
It really is. And you know, when we're living proof of it, really, you know, every single step of everything, we have proved it, and we're living it. So, and what I can't comprehend is that no one else sort of says, "Oh my God, that's incredible," because it is.
Well, it is totally incredible. The issue is, if I'm talking about universal law community trust to other people, and I don't have the documented footage of that, and that's the end of it, and they're still worried that, you know, they may have bailiffs coming around, because that was a big concern for me with my mother living here. You know, that she can't deal with anything.
Part of it. That is a part of it. That if you do these steps and you don't join, I mean, 13, the reason why, when I looked at your packet that you've been doing and the steps that you've done, and I asked you to send me the documents, what you did is what a lot of people fall down on, which is they joined the accounts together. So let's say I've got a council tax account with the council in this legal fiction, and I log in to that council tax account and I change the name in there to Minister Emoven, then it's the same as me going to the deed poll and changing my name on the deed poll to Minister Emoven on Mickey Mouse, it joined as the previous legal fiction that I once credited to the new one that I'm using. And so people don't seem to comprehend that part of how these algorithms work and the back of these websites and how they capture data. Thank you. That you're using, you know, you put in the you reply to an old email, or they piss you on an old telephone number. What we mean by that is phishing. Really, they send a message or an email to an account that they had on record for the legal fiction, and people respond to it. So once you become Minister Emoven, you don't go back responding through any means.
No, it's like receiving something in the mail saying, I don't know who that is anymore, right? So you wouldn't reply to it.
Yeah, so even on your phone, so if you get a message from, I don't know, the previous council tax, and it comes through on your phone, you can reply on there as Minister Emoven that all of these accounts have been assigned, including the telephone number. And because the assignment is you becoming Minister Emoven. So it's not that you're looking for somebody else to do these steps, which is why you could document this yourself, is really what I was saying on the email, and that, you know, put the camera on yourself and say, well, I went onto this website, I went and did this, I went and did a recording, and so I thought instead of this step change option, I'd do this instead. So it's you. I was told to go here, I was told to pick up the phone, these are the steps, and this is what happened to you. So you're speaking from first-hand experience. Any hesitation or obstacles, let's say, that you might meet along the way, you know, it's fresh and unedited raw material that we want to be giving to people. None of this glossed over shite that's been edited and made to look, you know, in abbreviated commas, professional, which is what a lot of people have said about the site. It's all been done on purpose to look handmade. You don't need a degree in anything to build a website. You just need to, you know, it's all done for you. If you go and you bother to apply yourself, there's absolutely nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can't do. And so it's,
with regards to like how people view it, you know, because that's one of the strongest thing in terms of like trying to convince anyone of anything, is like if you send them to the site and they see it as
but we're not.
I can appreciate it's handmade.
Right, that's the point. When that it has to, it's speaking to a different mindset. It's speaking to our mindset. We want the mindset of people who can see through that for what it is. They're not looking for the gloss. They're not looking for their professional or singing or dancing virtual reality. They're looking for the raw material that is, and it filters, it acts as a filter. Same thing on Facebook. You know, we purposely respond in those ways to people on Facebook to see, you know, it's a filtration system. People don't realize that. And so they respond like, this is the real thing. It's a Facebook group and it's not doing its obligation of performance that I expect from it. So, you know, and we see it, prams out the toys and toys out the pram. That's what I was going to say. You know, it can be easily documented and determine for yourself what it looks like. The same as any bits of this aspects of this that we've been sharing with people. So really, it's great that we've got people such as yourself now coming on board and enthusiastic, like, because you just got it, didn't you? And it's the resonance of it you were talking to me about.
That's it, exactly. And if everyone gets the resonance of it, then, you know, it's game over for the system. It's that simple. It's not something that needs to be overcomplicated. But what I've struggled with when I've been taking this information to others, including the video from Strata, and I know that it cut out and it missed a few vital moments, and that's my apologies, because it's my camera. It just cuts out every 20 minutes. So to edit it the best I can, without missing anything. But like, I didn't want to interrupt your flow during the event. You see what I mean? So, you know, there's always going to be a few words here and there that are not going to be there. And sadly, they were ones that you said were quite vital. So what I want to do is put together something as a package, you know, like a 20-minute piece maximum, where it shows me going through the steps and basically detaching from all of this stuff, and showing that it can be done and I'm doing it. And also then, you know, the bare most simple way that we can put it in terms, because people don't understand when I've tried to describe, you know, the legal fiction or how this is all fraudulent.
We talked about this, didn't we, on that recording? If anybody wants to see that recording, where did you put that recording?
It's on my BitChute channel, which is Expose the Frauds, all one word. Expose with a capital E, the with a capital T, and frauds with a capital F.
And that's on BitChute.
Yeah.
So look out for a hit on there then. Now we've just put that out. So
well, it's quite a long thing, and people, you know what it's like with people's attention spans. And I've taken it to people who are very on board with the idea. They know that the system is totally fucking screwing us.
Yeah, but
they cannot grasp.
The people who saturate themselves with this are the people that we want. We got 1160 over there in India who came on 2 or 3 Zooms and then just went and saturated himself with the YouTube stuff, and he came out verbatim. And what he's achieved with 2222 over there and all of the people from India is staggering. They've caused their government corporation, pretend to be a government, to decriminalize 3 vital elements of this case that we pushed into the criminal out of civil by doing what we did. And this is what we're doing all the time. We're pushing admin into criminal. And we're not playing this admin game. The admin system is criminal, and that's it. So they've had to, because of what they've done over there, the Prime Minister has gone on TV, and the Ministry of Economics have decriminalised tampering with evidence, state evidence, failing to identify yourself, and what was, can you remember what the other one was? 11.6. Oh, obstructing a court official or a public official in their line of duty. Now, all of that has come about because they used Minister Emoven in their system, which meant that they were claiming against themselves instead of us claiming against ourselves. So the way that I tried to get people to picture this is 2 cars on the drive and you're insured in both cars. You smash one car into the other car, are you insured? Can you claim on your insurance? The answer is no, that will be fraud. But that is exactly what it is that we are doing all the time. We are claiming against ourselves by using that legal fiction. So if somebody said to me, you know, how can you explain the legal fiction process in layman's terms? It would be that, who are you? What's your name? And they tell you, now prove it. That's it. Prove it.
Yeah.
And let's start from there and look then, everybody look at all of the things that we have been indoctrinated with that are unsubstantiated as claims that we've made and continue to make and continue to compound and delude ourselves with. So look, that's what COVID came about to prove to us. Look how far we've come in the unsubstantiated claim realm world of hypothesis and deluded state.
Oh, and the science stuff and everything else. Yeah, for sure.
So it brought everything in, yeah. It brought religion in, it brought the money in, it brought everything that we've based our existence and definition upon. It's all been put in the pot and under the microscope, if you like, to be examined for what it really is, which is unsubstantiated claim. So what is it that we really can only, we can glean from that is that we know nothing. And so when you get to that point, that fearful, that point that we all fear, which is the fear of the unknown, and you face it head on, then all of the things that you didn't have labels for and definition of can come at you, because you haven't fenced yourself off or boxed yourself in and detached yourself or separated yourself from all that you haven't been projected with a title for or a definition of. So going back 1380 there, you write your own glossary, going into the court, your Minister Emoven, and you really want to know where one very simple thing that dissolves the implied trust that this system requires in order for it to initiate is, where is your assignment of consent? Now, most people won't get that. Some people will at a certain level of, we're all ruled by consent, but most people don't even know what consent is and what it is that they're giving to another when they say yes or no. Or even, don't even have to say that. They can just say, what's your name? Or even speaking the same
they're not
language.
told, they're not given informed consent. They're not told, if you give your name, then you're going to be attached to this system, you're going to be in commerce and so on. They're not given I think you explained it in Stroud really well with the five things. So if there's a parent, at birth signing the birth certificate, then they wouldn't do it if they were given full disclosure of what that meant.
You don't sign the birth certificate. It's a declaration, it's hearsay. It's the registrar that signs it. You've automatically assigned your power of attorney. You haven't got a power of attorney because you've walked in there as a dead legal fiction, just declaring nothing really, declaring that some goods just fell out of your Mrs. Vessel. It's really, sorry to say it, in how layman's terms do you want it, It's,
fair,
so they will say, we don't need your assignment of consent.
Wait a minute. Who will say what? Who will say what? Wait, two facts. Let's get this. When you go to the court, you mean? The pirate ship? Right.
When you go into the pirate ship that's docked up there and you say, where's your assignment of consent?
The pirate ship, wait a minute. The pirate ship used to be docked out of the Holy See, didn't it?
Yes.
Right, but it's not anymore. It's sat in the Big Blue. And
they
are your debtors. Their vessel is in our water, not vice versa. That's where Big Blue asset comes from, the Big Blue. The indefinable blue, that vibration of frequencies that makes it look blue when you look at it. It's that's as much as we can define it to be. It's blue and it's big, and that's all that we've got. And it sinks their battleships in it. They've got nothing to underwrite themselves within there. That's why they just poof, it simply doesn't exist, and you will see this when you go in there, and which is why it's so important that you do. And so leave no claim unrebutted. But how do you rebut it? If you're going in there and you're quoting their fiduciary responsibilities and I'm your beneficiary, and you just implied that you put your trust in them, and you're more than happy to continue to accept liabilities or disguised as benefits. You're consenting and assigning your consent at that point that you use that name that belongs to them for that system to initiate in any way, shape or form that they've defined from ecclesiastical downwards. Now, when you go in as Minister Emoven, you will see that that can't happen. Now, but even before Minister Emoven came along, even if you just went to the court, even as the legal fiction at this point, there's no court, is what you're going to find out. It's just a little room that they have rented from themselves, just like those virtual reality legal entities that create virtual reality inside the matrix system do. They went in an office, out to an office, claiming against themselves, using your equitable rights that you've assigned their consent of by using that legal fiction to them to use. And then you cannot stand that you're a utility transmitting account by consent. So everything that's done right there, people saying it's not in my name, it's exactly done. It's nothing about your name. You just, whatever your name is that you give them, unless you reserve the rights of it for them to not be able to use it, you're in the game, you're in the matrix, and you've peacefully surrendered yourself as the collateral to underwrite their ship with their vessel, their, what did he call it? Like a conveyance, to convey one thing to the other. And you're bombing it out of the water just by going there. Now, when you get there and you say, well, and let's call the name, and you say, hi, I'm the Vatican debt slave, I'll be the liability holder in due course today, which is effectively what you're saying when you say that's me to the legal fiction, you're then given a means test. Oh, just fill this form in, and tell us how much you can't afford. And off you, that's contract. It doesn't really matter what you put on that document. Somebody appeared today to be the person that they needed you to be, to act in the role of Vatican debt slave, to be the liability holder for their administrative shit to continue again for another 28 days, 90 days, and so on and so forth. So when Minister Emoven goes down there, this is a completely different ball game, because suddenly something else comes into play, which is the preservation of their system. That instead of you being the one trying to preserve your rights from being trespassed upon, they're the ones running around trying to preserve and reserve what's left of their shitty hypothesis that's only really effective for those who still credit that belief by going in there and accepting the liabilities are paying the bastards. Anybody crediting these terrorists, really, it's time to be rounded up. Go and, get your vaccine and do us all a favour.
Well, I mean, in terms of crediting them, it's anyone who's got fucking stocks and shares in, God knows what. But
anybody who pays them, it's anybody who uses their slave tokens. Even we, we're forced into it. And once you get this on this scale, that you will, when you start to put these steps into place, and it's like opening another door in your mind and seeing it all in a completely different picture, because you have got these other parts that you were kept away from. That's what we're given, is just this information and sharing the picture of putting all of our bits and our learning of our experiences all together and saying, there you go, pick what you want out of that and have a go yourself, really.
So the other thing on that about, when we've got that information back and gathering the parts of ourselves, was the kindness credits and how this operates as an alternative, because obviously, like whatever we do at this point, there's a massive drive, we all know, towards the CB.
So when we went, let's go to that then. So when we went into the keeping the stories together, the council tax, Nestle, and the Minister Emoven and the rock kindness credits, that's what they were offered. They were offered a rock at the table.
What, like a sweetener?
No, if you can prove your claim, I'm more than happy to discharge the charges, or we use rocks in our currency. So, and you hear on the recording the magistrate or the guy pretending to be one saying, "This what you're going to pay us with them rocks." Exactly. Bravo. And at that point, he got a little bit edgy and shouted to us to get out. Because at that point, and you can hear in his voice, we don't want to spoil the fun. We'll send we should actually, if you want to download that recording and put it on your channel, and that goes with any of the other videos, if you go, the website's down at the moment, like I said, because of the things that we've been doing. The only way that they can affect us is by doing this, which is what they did, the same thing last year when we did what we did to COVID. mainstream TV with the Pope coming out and excommunicating us, which I don't know whether we've had a recording of that go up onto YouTube. So that's what we gained in 2021, was an excommunication from the Pope.
You did speak about it in Stroud.
Yeah, on live TV. That's all on the video. You can go across and watch it on there. And people now here in the Emerald Isle are still being feeling the effects of this hypothesis of the COVID. So that's just that's about to be ignited with the Queen's Bench Justice Stein order saying that the burden of proof that COVID exists is too great in order to use it in claims, which was what smashed the hypothesis out of the Holy See, and the Holy See went with it. And so that's why the response that we got was from the Pope, like we just said. And then this year, this is seen as restore the rights and remove the borders of our minds, which is what we said that this was about, that all the gates and the prison doors will only open when nobody needs papers. Obviously, I knew that this would, if the outcome was going to be this, but how it all came about, I had no idea. And this is what I believe when we talk about putting your trust in universal law, is you haven't got a clue, is the honest answer about how it's going to all manifest, what parts of this amazing universe has to come into alignment with in order for that one instant circumstance to create this truth bomb that it's exploded. But when you take a step back and you look at all of the conjunctions, if you like, of all of the other things that came before that point, it's just mind-blowing, the alignment of all of these things that had to come into place. So even when you're going through these things, you can look back on it and say, well, without all of that, then this just wouldn't be the way it is. So the restoration of rights came with the cost of the hypothesis of, again, freedom, what we had interpreted and defined as freedom. We really had to open our eyes and our minds and stop pretending that while we can kid ourselves about something as ridiculous as COVID, that we've got any form of any validity as far as our definitions go, up to and including but not exclusively the definition of freedom. So by doing what we did, we were able to exemplify as nobody needed papers. I said that obviously I would come out when nobody needed papers, and and that's what's happened. So they trafficked me through Heathrow Airport on the 24th of October without any papers, and told me at that point that I don't need any. So there we have it, and we've got that on record as well. Since then, the UK Border Patrol agency has gone into, let's say, hibernation. It went on strike. They said the military were going to be brought in. I've had reports from a taxi driver, friend of ours, who has been taking lots of people and picking them up from various airports across the northern part of what was used to be territory known as the UK. And they're coming back all saying the same thing. What has gone on in there? And so he rang me up and he's like, what did you do? My customers are coming and saying that we're holding our passports out, but there's nobody to show them to. So I'm not going to give any specific dates, but between the 1st of December, was it the 1st of December? Yes, from let's say the 1st of December to now, there's been 3 exemplifications. Sorry, of the 3, yeah, going through the borders without any papers in both what we would have said to us UK jurisdiction and also Europe. That was once as a passenger, which could have potentially been, determined as though, well, you were goods inside the people carrier, and then so it had to be done again on foot, which it was done. I'm going to talk to you about what was said at that point, and just in a minute. And then it was also done with a conveyance, and at the point where it was done with a conveyance, I'll tell you on the 21st, the returning of the light, what do we call it, solstice, saw us go through without any, there's no customs, there's no police, there's nothing, there is no papers, nobody needed papers in all of those circumstances. So
that's absolutely wondrous.
It's incredible.
And entirely the way it should be. But my point still remains in terms of like, I don't know if you've documented any of that, but we ought to at this point, so that it just gets out there. Like, because they've already shown that they can't censor quick enough these sort of videos on all of the independent, well, so somewhat independent anyway, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, Library, etc., where if we do a really good, I mean, it just quickens up the game, surely, where people can be free again quicker than going through another couple of years of this bullshit, because they're going
just get, all you got to do the steps, get your Minister Emoven warranty card, stick your mush on it and go and laminate it, and that's what they say, it's all you need. They said, have you not got a library card? They said, have you not got something where it's laminated with your photograph on it? It's what you're holding there. And she went, yeah. And so when I went up with on foot, and I just said, I've got no papers. So she went, what? How have you got here without any papers? I said, well, I came without any, and I was trafficked on the 24th of October through Heathrow without any. I was told that I didn't need any, so I haven't got any. And when I came through here, from here to there, where I'm coming back from, I used this, which was my Minister Emoven warranty card. Now, when I was inside, I had this massive vision of there was something horrible standing behind me, and it looked like a white hooded holy thing with red eyes in the black. And I kicked it in my vision, and it turned into a policeman. And I sprayed the policeman with the antidote. Do you remember me telling you 1367 last year?
Yeah, I do.
Sprayed the policeman with it in this vision, and he dissolved into a big puddle, and all I was left was his uniform. And I went through this door, and I was in like this big airport area, like a customs, and I just walked straight through with my Minister ID, and it's spliced through their ID cards as it went, and there was no borders in this. And then I opened my purse, and something massive fell out and fell into this river, and it was washed away. And I believe that was debt that was being levied and leaned against this rock, and we returned it to source. And when I walked through there, and it was like I was actually the vision. It was the whole thing that I'd already seen in this vision. I thought I was losing my mind inside.
Because you're in matter and movement.
It was like showing me. I'd said, come and show me what it is I need to see. I don't know if anybody does this, but if you do want to open that part of your mind, then I find it helps if you breathe as deeply in as you can, and then hold it, and then let it out for 3. And you'll find that it starts to burn behind your eyes as you do it. And just put yourself into sensory deprivation. It was the best thing that they did for me, the very best thing that they could. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but it is the best thing. And I thank them all daily for the part that they played in the learning that this has given me, and the deprivation that it put me through, and the testing.
Well, deprivation leading to liberation.
Absolutely, because what I was depriving myself of really was external stimulation that distracted me from the things that I needed to do, which was to be able to see myself and the forms, which is what, and it gave me this amazing side to me of patience, which I was lacking. And we were laughing the other night about how in 12 months somebody can completely do a 360 as far as going from screaming fuck you butchers, slaves and sheep and sheep and stuff to just having this infinite patience, and calm. And because when you've been in that environment where it's like saturation point, I suppose, with hypnotherapy, you've come to this place in your mind that you would never have experienced if you hadn't had all of those things. So you can't help but smile. You can't help. I know it's like, oh, she's crazy, but I was crazy forever thinking that this was a punishment. I was crazy forever thinking that I didn't need to do this, and that why is this happening to me? But even looking at something like it as a loss, it's never a loss. And that's the trick that they've pulled on us. We've pulled on ourselves is that
well, something you said that really deep, if I can interject, it's something you said that really deeply resonated when we were in Stroud, and that was, look, if it had to happen all over again and they want to put me in one of their boxes, then I'm still freer than I am if I'm going about pretending to be free, and operating under their commerce and their system. And that was quite profound. It's true, isn't it? You can't, you can give up your soul, but you can't have it taken from you.
Exactly. You either give it away or not. It's as simple as that. It's not something that is taken, it's something that we give. And so when you realize it's not yours to give, because you haven't claimed it, you've just got the right of use of this body, and even this mind, and then you can't give it away. You can't peacefully surrender. It's not mine. I've just got the right of use of it. And this is the key, everybody. We stop committing this fraud on our souls. And I know this is why this Schwab's has jumped all over it and tried to corrupt this statement, which is you will own nothing and be happy. Get your heads out your ass, people. We own nothing, and we've been completely miserable all this time. So why don't we just acknowledge that we own nothing and stop claiming against ourselves? That's the equivalent of something that they refer to in their Black's Law Dictionary as a quiet title. Keep it on the QT. Keep your soul and the claim that you're about to make quiet. You're not entitled to anything. You have the right of use of everything, and we've things that we've overlooked in all of the exciting times that have been going on. Last year we got an order by somebody professing to be having the right of use of the title. So Win Williams, was it Win Williams? Winnie Williams?
Win Williams, yeah.
Who determined that anybody's got the right of use of anything they like, even if the consent has been assigned. Now that can go both ways. It's not one that I'd thought that we would ever really use, because it's not something that resonated with me. When we got it, I was quite, indignated, as you can hear from the transcripts, about the audacity that somebody should sit there and say such a thing. But going now full circle again, if it is a circle, excellent.
Always a circle.
is another perspective, which is that when you look at it like that, we have got the right of use of everything. If we stop claiming it, we can all share it, can't we? If I don't lay a claim to something, then you don't feel like you've got to lay a claim to something else, and then we don't have to have a fight about whether your claim is infringed upon my claim. Or, if we just said, right, okay, well, we've got the only thing we've really got to do is use it right between us. So we've got it's not having the right share. the right of a share of this rock. We've got the right to share it right, I believe, and that's the restoration part, I think, that's coming now. So the thing with the kindness credits, when we went into that situation in Leslie, for example, because it is, they know this. We've been trying to get this message across to you that is the rock, and your share, or the implied share that they said that you've got, that is being used to do all of this to you with. And you assigning it and giving away your implied share of that rock by using their legal fiction with which that happens is what funds them and credits them and gives them the consent. So that's why, nobody should ever feel embarrassed or ashamed of offering a rock to somebody, because it is the share of the rock that underwrites it all. And by us doing what it is that we've done, we've not compounding commerce, because you can't pay us, said if we were in commerce, it would be 47 quadrillion that you owed us. But because we don't accept your dirty, filthy slave tokens at our point of exchange, because we can't meet you at the mines or the soul with that, then we've had to convert that debt into the relevant amount of equity, which is the rock, and all of the assets and resources and rights along with it that they had implied that they had
unalienable
right
rights, right? That everyone's born with. No one can ever dismiss that. It's totally the universal law from start to finish, that no one writes that, and they've usurped it.
Yeah, well, we stopped using a language that meant what we said, really, meant what we felt, because writ became rights, person became man or woman, if we allow it to be, and so that it all does just come down to definition. So unalienable, split it up. What does it mean? A charge cannot be attached. So how is it that I stop attaching charges to myself or my implied share of the rock? Well, I stop plugging myself into a system that charges me for the privilege of doing so. And so the minute that I stop plugging myself into that system, I can't be charged. So how do I do that? I give the system Minister Emoven. And I toss it over there. Well, hello, I'm Minister Emoven. I'm a liability holder at this address. Please update your records, please. And again, on the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And do you know what? We have got the right to do that. We're not usurping you. We can come and knock on your door, and we can say to you, look, your house has been assigned as part of a debt equity swap to discharge the charges that Her Majesty's government owed to us as a community. And so all you have to do is put your trust in yourself, discharge all of your liabilities, go on this website, put your name in there, press send, and you live a debt-free life too. Now, I don't know what layman's terms is if it ain't that. I can't get it into laying. Get up, people. If you're laying down and learning this and you need it in layman's terms, and those are if anybody has got layman's terms, let's do it in the terms that the people.
Well, okay, let me
already...
for a lot of people, it is literally Stockholm syndrome. They think that there is still some sort of benevolent force that wants to look after them, and that paying taxes.
Let them have that. Let them keep that. It's universal law community trust, your new benevolent force, and we've just discharged all of the charges, and here's your right of use back unencumbered. Yeah. And if you want, here's your credit file as well, but you can't use it.
Nasara Jisara, as you said to me before.
What?
Nasara Jisara. That's what everyone says. Is this Nasara Jisara? Tell them it is Nasara Jisara.
They say, oh, it's New World Order. Okay, it is New World Order, but not as we'd have the Zionists define it. Call it whatever the you like, just do it. It's really, we've had it all. We've had the shills, the scams, the frauds, the freaks, the cults, the da-da-da-da. We don't. Has it stopped?
Yeah, well,
us?
I
It is,
certainly
isn't it?
I don't consider any of you to be cult or sham artists or anything like that.
Cult comes from the
one
word culture. And what do we? I will go. I will take cult. And
culture is
raise,
massive. No, culture
and
is
I'll,
massive. No, so it's like
yeah,
like you know, as a traveller,
let's
that's
grow
what
some
happens.
kindness
So from one
credits.
place where something's legal, and then you go to another place where something's illegal, and people have a very warped idea of what's moral and ethical, and then everyone gets confused. But it's absolutely, you know, none of us have a clue who the best answer is energy and matter and movement to who we are, because we can't define it. But yeah, there are so many lost wandering souls that are sort of so Stockholm syndrome that are walking around thinking that they're doing their bit to make the world better by paying into, you know,
by supporting their own slavery and the terrorism of this rock, by paying
so when I talk about
and allowing NATO to go
reform,
and spray that shit in the sky, and then talk to us about global warming and, you know, and freaking out because you put your plastic in the wrong rubbish bin, while they're paying their taxes to these benevolent terrorists, you know, after a point, it really just becomes really boring. And you just look at these people and you say, okay, well, this is just not for you. We don't need these people to do it. These are people who will follow the market. They will just follow whatever the next individual stands in line for. And we get that. We don't.
But that's huge. Why... That's a huge general. Because okay, I'll give you a personal story. My brother is not an idiot. Yet he has, you know, sort of bought. You know, it sounds silly to say it, but yeah, he has bought the official narratives.
So why don't we don't define idiot then? If he's not an idiot, then define it. Because this is what we don't do. We don't. How can I meet you at the mind? You just said that he's not an idiot, but he just did something that I would consider the definition of idiot being.
Be idiotic. Yeah, absolutely.
But
and
idiot in Greek, idiot in Greek means private.
I don't think if he was given better information that he would. I blame myself. For years I fucking came at him with all sorts of the stuff that I still think is very true and has been proven to be so more and more over the years. But I went really, you know, off the scale with the reptilian stuff way early, over a decade ago, and he's for that reason he's never going to listen to a word I say. But you know, even now with all of the stuff coming out about the jib jabs and everything else, I think he's just stubborn. But there's a huge sway of the population, right, that are just going to go along, as you said, and do whatever they're told. He's not one of them, but I can't get through to him. So what I really want to do is put together these things with people who've done it, like yourself, that speak from the heart and that he can listen to, that have nothing to do with me. You know, because it's a sad world that we live in when your own family would rather listen to someone like Bill Gates over your brother. And that's the only way I can put it. It's for me, I really want to get through to these. Yeah, it is exactly. And you know, I'd trust him with my life, but he wouldn't trust me to throw a. I wouldn't go there, but
just know that you're not alone in that situation. A lot of us, our immediate family members, are doing the same to us.
Yeah,
they will listen to a third party.
All of us. All of us.
Yeah.
You know, you're not on your own.
At some point, you just got to recognize that they're not going to listen to you. It's got to come from a third party, and you know they'll get it when they get it.
Yeah, but I think this is a prime example of what a third party. You know, you've had brilliant results and you've gone through your hardships and you've got there through. You know,
but they'll have to find their own way. They'll have to discover it for themselves. You can't tell them.
It has to be their own moment. But
you trying to push it onto them and say, have a look at this third party telling you, is you telling them. They'll never listen to it. They'll have to discover it for themselves.
Right. I agree. Yeah, you can't. You just we've tried and tried. It's never going to happen because they're on a journey.
Yeah, your best bet is to give up on help the people that are ready to be helped. Forget anybody else. Plant the seed, walk away.
I am sort of there as well. Like I do hear what you're saying. I totally agree with it in many ways. You know, obviously it's difficult because I love my brother beyond much in the world, but there's many other things that I've brought up tonight around layman's terms where still I'm not feeling like that most people that I could who are much more sort of open to this information that they'd get from the way it's being discussed right now, like in terms of the legal fix. I think there's certain things that will always put people like, oh well, it'd be better to just do it, make sure by going through the system. So what ways can we categorize this as freeing our souls that aren't seen as the cult like or the the woo woo stuff, because that's literally where the key lies to me anyway. Like that there's so many people
one of the things that comes
I
up
would
in
call them
advertising,
deciders, right?
Yeah, one of the things that advertisers know very well is that most people won't get a message from one source. They need to hear it from 3 separate sources before it triggers anything in their mind.
Yeah.
So having the message come from the, and then it's up to the individual to choose whether they want to, you know, what they want to do with that information. You cannot make somebody do something that they do not want to do.
Absolutely.
End of.
Yeah.
Right? You can persuade them, you can coax them, but you're going to be wasting more of your time doing that. You're better off finding the people that are ready to jump on board with this, work with them. The others plant the seed, walk away. And I'm having to find this the hard way. You know, I've got family that I love dearly, and it pains me to know that they've taken the jab and they're, you know, using the slave tokens and following all the, you know, the guidance from the government. And it pains me dearly to see that happening. But I know at some point I've got to give up and let them do what they're going to do. That's their life. I can help them when they're ready to be helped. Until then, there's not a lot I can do. I spent the last 20 years, you know, banging on about this.
Hello, brother.
And you don't want to, trust me, you don't want to spend 20 years of your life doing this.
No, spending 20 years of your life that you're never going to win the argument or thing is just a total waste of time.
Exactly. So
the
best advice I can give you is plant the seed, walk away. If they come across this information from a different source, they're more likely to hear it.
Yeah,
but work with the people, but work with those people that are ready to, you know, that are on board already. Work with them.
But that is what I'm essentially trying to say, is that aside from, you know, the ones that we're talking about in terms of like immediate family that I've had to already for a long time let go of, and they're not going to ever listen to me. There are many people that I have found, you know, sort you could call them tribe or whatever. And this is something that, you know, they're ready to hear, but they're not quite understanding. So when 010 was talking about, you know, the fact that the website's laid out in such a way on purpose that it's not meant to look, you know, corporate or professional or any of that, right? So, but there's got to be a sort of a delivery mechanism for those people who are ready to, they understand the corruption, they've not taken the jab, they want to be on board for the newer, whatever you want to call it, but yet they struggle to get the point of what this is all about.
The cognitive dissonance goes deep. You got to remember that we are born into this system, and you know, for a lot of people, they don't know any different. They even, you know, they think that legal is lawful, and you know, because they think that, you know, they're never going to see past that point until they experience something themselves directly where they are impacted by it. And you know, it's pointless trying to persuade people that you cannot have an influence over. Just work with the people that you can.
Yeah, well, I am talking about that. I'll keep saying it again and again, but that is what I am doing. I mean, like I say, a lot of these people that I found, They have not taken the jab. They're not going along with anything that they get, you know, but this is a step for them which they're struggling to understand. And I'm still asking for the, and I get it, you know, because even when I'm listening to a lot of what 010 is saying, it's how am I going to relay that to those that are ready to jump aboard the new ship, so to speak? And
clearly they're not ready if they haven't got it yet. All you can do is,
well, they have got it. I mean, they've stopped doing everything that we've all but they're still getting, you know, the letters and everything. They're still getting the threats of the bailiffs and so on and so, but they don't want to play ball. But when they listen to what we've been putting out so far, I say we, sort of, but what you guys have been putting out so far, they can't quite grasp the message, like how this is the key to the game. And that's what the only thing that I'm trying to get here is to a point where I can document it in a way where it's more so that more people who are ready to jump the ship of the system can climb aboard the new ship. You see what I'm saying?
And I think that's because they're attached to the name. You know, there is a strong attachment. You know, you've grown up with this name, it's your name. Why should I give it up? And, you know, there's all of these sort of conversations that people will have with themselves and probably much more. And, you know, they're indoctrinated into thinking, oh, we have to pay for these services, and rather than why don't we just cooperate and make it happen? You know, it's the people that make things happen. It's not the money.
Together and bring them to a meeting or something. That's the best thing.
But that's a mind shift. That's a mindset shift that they need to go through.
Yeah.
We can assist them, but we should. What I'm saying is, don't get so hung up on it that it becomes a barrier for you. You carry on doing what you're doing, and you know, people will see the results. And once they start to see the results, they will start to say, hey, you know, there's a good gig over here. I want to go over here instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely resonate with what you're saying completely there. That's exactly how it's worked with any time I've gone sort of off the radar and silent over the years, and then, you know, something's worked, and then suddenly I'm all popular again, and, you know, like, oh, how did you manage that? You know, and that's how it goes, because they start to think it's their own idea and so on. And I don't, yeah, obviously it is to a certain extent their own idea, but I still think at this time it's like do you not consider that it's sort of like a race right now because they're not gonna stop.
Let's say it's a race right now, right? And is it worth your time spending 10 years of your life trying to convince one person where you can just carry on and move forward and, you know, have 100 other people that are ready to move forward?
Well, obviously the 100 people ready to move forward.
Yeah, what I'm saying is don't get hung up on that one or two that you got to convince, oh, you got to join this, you got to do this. Don't get hung up on them. Find the ones that are ready.
I'm really only saying, like, I think that there is now a point where we've got so many examples of how this does actually really truly work. It is really truly true.
And let's get that out into the world and let the people that are going to see it make their own mind up.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. That's okay. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And as I've said at the beginning of this call, I'm ready to go through the steps myself before the 17th January, and whatever happens. But I wanted a few assurances around. I'm living back at my mother's place right now, and she's just not good with confrontation. I'm okay faced with nasty bullies. I've done it all my life, but a lot of people aren't. And my mother's one that she would just lose her shit. Yeah, you know, sometimes it has to be done in some ways. But if I can do this and keep her out of it to the best of my ability, that's what I want to do.
I must be honest. I must be honest with you. I don't think you need to expect to have any fancy things happening, because I've had absolutely nothing happening, and I've done it for a whole year now. And I've had lots of funny letters saying that these guys are going to come and knock on the door and they'll be there in so-and-so day at such and such a time. It's never happened, right? So yeah. I think the best thing actually is to keep as quiet as possible. That's what I've done. I've just sent the things back and said not at this address, but anything else, I've just ignored it, right?
That's a really good point.
You just carry on. I've just carried on with my life, right? And okay, I don't pay council tax, I don't pay electrics, I don't pay water, I pay nothing. And they've all come up.
Discharged all your charges.
Yeah. And they've sent me letters saying, oh yeah, we're going to send somebody here, we're going to get a court order so we can come and put a prepay meter in your place and da. And I just ignored it. And it never happened. It's never happened yet.
So one thing I did.
When you add to these steps, anything at all, other than just return to sender, and that's the quiet title. You are quieting the presumption that a claim is being made to any of their titles.
Yeah, and I think all these clever things that they've got, just phone us and we'll do the survey and find out how we can help you. You just then playing straight into their hands, right? Whereas if you keep quiet, nothing they can do about it, is it really? Because I haven't responded, I haven't done anything else, and I've done nothing. And I think that if
that was entirely my strategy, and that's what I did for a long time with I can't tell you how many letters. Then I got ones that they didn't have any return address on the envelope, so I Steam opened it and then Steam shut it, but whatever the purpose, because I didn't know where to send it back to. It didn't have anything on the inside of the envelope to tell me where to send it to, but a county court judgment thing being levied against me. So I then got in touch with these Dutch debt charities and told them about my debts, but I haven't been in touch with the actual, the so-called creditors or debtors. So they're essentially,
you're right. They're your debtors now. So each one of those claims, those statements of accounts that we've been wrongly calling bills, are actually a bill of exchange when you endorse it and you action it and you accept to be the liability holder of it. Or even what you're actually doing is you're accepting for them to use your share of the rock for the gas or the electricity. That is what's actually happening. When you pay them, you're paying a 1% administration fee for them to do it, which is, well, private corporation, how it exists. So this is layman's terms. Like you said, the debtor and creditor there. Everybody knows those terminologies, but they have the bank or the loan shark or some kind of money lender as the creditor, and it's actually that's where the fraud was committed there upon our minds right from the word off, because we've always been a creditor without us and our sign of nature signature endorsing these documents. The system that requires that endorsement and warrant is actually what you're doing. It's a golden web for people who haven't got their heads around this terminology and they want to get their heads into being able to comprehend something more than layman. But then I would recommend Golden Web on the Cherishing channel on YouTube as well, to just kind of break things down for you.
Who's that, sorry?
It's called it's the Cherishing, CHIRON channel.
Here on last.
Can you type it in on the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in now.
And the particular, the really great, all of the episodes are really great, but then you've got Golden Web, which talks about etymology and phonetics, touches a little bit on the Greek. It takes you to a certain level of comprehending, and I would go and watch that. I recommend that to everybody. And then also reading and learning the Greek language to overlay that over the top of it is really when you've turned your corrupted mind, let's say, back all the way from Babylonian bollocks, we call it, legalese, we've drenched ourselves in UCC definition and code, and ecclesiastical definition really is that what it's all can be, just a big circle put around it and say, right, okay, well, as long as I don't do any of that. And then everybody's like, oh, how long? It's got 7 years to learn all of this. And it really, the thing that we're talking about is as long as you don't do that, which you've been doing up until now, which is what identifying yourself as a Vatican debt slave. So that then immediately puts you back in that you have been the creditor and the debtor. You've been both of these things. because anything else just simply doesn't exist. So it's not them or they, or it's us that have been doing this to ourselves. So if we've accepted for capitalism to be committed upon our rights, then that's okay. You know, it's a lesson that we've learned. Well, we retired now from crediting that mindset, and we're discharging the debts that mindset caused. Nobody else can do that. There's no official receiver on this rock that can do it other than yourself. You are officially receiving those liabilities and using your rights to discharge the charges against them, instead of giving the responsibility of that to a governing of your mental state, a government. And you are determining it for yourself. You know,
so now this is really helping me a lot more to get into the layman terms I was on about, because what I want to do is express the language to people about how they empower themselves. You know, it's rather than telling them everything that they've got to do, but if they can understand that only them are going to free themselves from the slave tokens, the slavery system, the whole
package.
Solomon, you know, it's basically up to them, but how we put that in terms to them that they can be motivated by, not scared off by.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Can I just say two quick things? Right, Rob, when it comes to letters, if you've got one really curious and it's got no return address, I found out by accident by leaving it in the kitchen and like spilling some oil on it that it goes see-through. And it's always the front page that's on the front. So just smear a little oil across your envelope and you'll get the return address.
All right, fair.
And it dries out so that it goes opaque again. The other thing is concerning adding things to the steps. When it came to calling up the electricity board, and I said to them, can you change the liability holder is now Minister Emoven? They were all ready to change the name. Then I added something. I asked them a question. I said, can you send the bill to the trust address rather than the supplier address? And that just shook up a nest of wasps, and customer service got on it, and they won't send it to anywhere but the supply address, what they call the supply address. They don't supply anything. And consequently, since then, they've absolutely refused. I've got them in writing, refusing to change the account, everything else. And they came and fitted prepayment meters, which I've also discovered through looking at the process that they're doing completely against their own laws. As not actually being the supplier themselves, they've got no right to even apply for a warrant. When they go to the court, after they've done the PPMs, in the law it says that you can cancel a PPM within 14 days, and that the supplier is supposed. Sorry,
their legislation shite, you mean?
Yeah, the legislation shite. They completely ignore it. Right? They break their own law. That they're supposed to tell you verbally or in writing that you've got a right of 14 days.
Who are they supposed to tell?
The legal fiction, obviously.
There you go. So nothing happened here.
That's
yeah, but then
you know, I sit and make it up, and then I say, "Oh,
but they do all that. They don't do any of it. And when they go to court, there's if you ask for the warrant from the court, all it is like SSC applied for entry, yes, Mrs. June, and so underneath, two names who were responsible for granting a warrant, no reason for the application, no actual warrant.
Okay, wait, can I just ask a question? So they didn't change the account to Minister Emoven then?
No, they didn't, no.
Right. And because if they can't do that, obviously.
I sent them the documents, everything recorded.
Yeah. But you just need to do restoration of rights of the supply. And when you said that, you know, they're not supplying you with anything, it's us supplying them. We're supplying them with our energy.
Sure.
As a utility transmitting account, which you know.
Yeah.
So you know, it's worse when you're doing it. So what are you going to do about that? You need, if you have ever found yourself in these circumstances, then, you know, just send us an email. Before, it should have got we should have got to this before this point though. So why, at what point did they get a warrant, a so-called warrant that we know is never underwritten by anything?
They did one for the gas in March, and basically just turned up and did it. And although I have notices in both my meters stating that we are the creditor, etc., and the Schedule A, and the fact that, you know.
Yeah, but they have to have a utility transmitting account at that address, so that you have to have a bank account or there still, or something else that they can cross check in their data, because they have to go through something called a risk assessment to make sure that they are really coming to, they have got the jurisdiction of that debtor account for those charges. And this was getting 1160 across to all of the prison wardens. That's when it all blew up, when he said, which account is it that you're going to use to charge the charges against for keeping me in your private prison? And that was it. They couldn't put him across there because they haven't got one. Right. Because they have been using Minister Emoven. And so where here people have been using Minister Emoven and putting that in their system, you can see the difference as to what happens when you don't. Yeah. So even at that point where, let's say, they've gone down that tax and they've still presumed that Minister Emoven, even if I can use one address for 1 million titles if I want. Uh-huh. So, you know, even if they're sending a warrant for the legal fiction, and it's got to that point, I'd be going to the court as Minister Emoven on behalf of the rights that were once crediting that account. And I want to know who it is who's assigned them, because we haven't.
Yeah, sure.
Did you not go?
And they sent out a thing saying they were going to apply for a warrant. And I sent it back saying, yes, I'd like to be at the court. I will be appearing as Minister Emoven, and both times they ignored actually informing me about the court dates, either by legal fiction or anything. So they didn't actually respond to my request to be in court. And then, as I say, what the court sent me is what they claimed was a warrant. I said, well, thanks very much for the court entry, but where's the warrant? And they said, that is the warrant. I said, well, what was it actually granted for? Where's the record of the court case? They said, there is no record. We don't keep a recording. So basically, so I said, okay, well, I can see where you're now potentially liable, because either SSC have applied for one on the grounds of a possible fault, or which would have been a lie, because when they came to do the gas, they were literally just did it, popped in. Right. Check the gas and went again.
This is where you need to comprehend the settlement part. So when it gets to this point, there is you're offering, you're officially receiving these charges. Yes, I did once credit that legal fiction title, and yes, I did once assign my consent to your corporation. To utilize my shares and sell them back to me. But I retired from that role, and I'm not playing that game anymore. And so even if then they still continue, you'd pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm Minister Emoven, I've been assigned this account. You've got a claim here for 20,000 slave tokens worth of electricity. And I'd just like to know which one of these accounts would you like me to discharge these charges against?
I did it. I did that, and they ignored that as well.
And do you put it in writing to them that they'd already been discharged and give them an adjustment of account?
No, that part I didn't know how to do.
That's the bit. That is the bit that the online accounts were set up for nearly 3 years ago. How many years ago now? Yeah, nearly 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
To do exactly that. Yeah. And so, and this was the bit that the minion couldn't get. Which is to have all of that accumulating. So when you get a charge in that legal fiction title that you want credited, open your ledger book and start to create these entries that are accumulating a certain amount of slave token value. This is how much you would be creating if you continued to pay the bastards.
Yeah.
Now, you know that that's 1%. Of the amount that you will actually create for them through their tips mechanism and the fiat currency.
Yeah.
So add some notes to that when you get to the bottom of your adjustment of your accounting.
Right.
Now, take your Schedule A out and look, what is it that these corporations have done? So we've already secured HM government. What you're actually doing now is you're going to assign a portion of the debt from the 2020-2000 account, which is HM government, that's got a 10 quadrillion carried forward balance.
Indeed.
And then you're going to take the amount that you've accumulated from what it is that they've done to you. This is how we accumulated the debt in the first place. These corporations sending charges or implying liabilities or obligations obviously entered into contract with our trading side of the trust and the accumulated charges according to the schedule. So you have a look at the schedule. They've sent a charge. They are trying to coerce somebody into committing liabilities. That's 20 million just from somebody sending one bill.
Yeah.
So you can quickly adjust your own account now. So if, let's say they've sent a bill, they've made a phone call and you've accumulated 25 million, let's say, for a round-up figure.
Right.
And off now you've got a carried forward 10 quadrillion from HM government under the SSE's account now, which is a sub-account of your kindness credit account.
Right.
You've got an amount in there that they've just accumulated. So what you're doing is you're accounting for your share of that debt now being used as credit to discharge the charges against.
Right.
And so let's say you've got 25 million in there. They've sent you a bill of 20,000. So that's 20 million that you would have accumulated over there. They still owe in this kindness credit account number, which is your kindness credit account number /001 or whatever it is you're going to give SSE in your ledger.
Mm-hmm.
You've now got an adjustment to say that account still owes 5 million.
Right.
So you and that is then what you're accounting for on a template that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
And you just put all you're really doing is changing your account number, the date that you're accounting for, the amount that you're accounting for, and you can have the template and you can do it all yourselves. Because it is really you and your liabilities that you are officially receiving. And it is supposed to be you that is accounting for that. So if you're ever called upon to prove in their definition of what proof is, in the definition of theirs, their definition of proof is something written in a ledger, witnessed by somebody, recorded in the date.
Right.
With a date. It's a deed, a recording of a deed. And that's the restoration of the roles building part that we're talking about. Well, that's why we had the Big Blue Asset Management Online, where you're all putting your data in there with your assets in there. But again, we're just assigning our consent to be under the jurisdiction of whether their network works or whether we've done the right thing or said the right thing or we haven't had the Pope on TV.
I don't want to complicate things here, but if that's the case as well, can I then say also that I don't understand the Gregorian calendar because it isn't time as I know it, as because this is a huge thing that I think is the spellbound humanity at the moment, like that we're actually operating under a calendar that is completely
Roman text calendar.
Are you? We've just come to now. We've just got now. That's it. Where in Icaria, where the first kindness credits outlet was open, they don't have hands on the clock because chronos is the spell. You're right about the illusion of time, and that's what that's why they don't have hands. And that the people that live there.
So any date asked for, you just put now.
We've got all sorts. You can write eon, how many, whatever, how many particles it is that went past my eyeballs. That many. It's up to you, isn't it? It's how many breaths it was since I saw you last. It's up to you to define. When do you start counting? and what
where
are
we
you
can have
counting
some fun.
for? Yeah. And so, you know, just peeling back all of these layers gets you to that point, which is feeding Kronos babies.
So right back to the layman's term. If someone asks me, okay, so what does Emoven mean? How can I say in a sentence or two?
It's one word.
It's one word.
It's one word, and the word is indefinable.
Okay.
And that's the end of the conversation. It is, isn't it? If you say, you know, hello, who are you? Indefinable. That's what I've said in the courts, and that's what smashed it all, because it is that if you don't remember anything, if somebody asks you a question about who you are, I'm indefinable.
Yeah.
How can I, you know, you've got the whole universe. I was saying this to somebody the other day, you've got the whole universe to choose from. Why would you choose Vatican debt slave? I said that in the courts as well. If somebody's asking you to intercontract, you know, tell me what your name is. Are you trying to coerce me into fraud? What do you mean? I just asked you what your name is. I believe I haven't got the right of use of what it is that you want me to use. So you can call me me.
So the next question that comes to mind on that note is that obviously if I go through this, like, it will wipe out the overdraft in my bank account, because I don't want anything to do with these banks, and surely we'll all find another way, and maybe I can use Wise or Revolut or whatever in the meantime. But yeah, Barclays will most certainly cancel my my ability to bank with them, let's say. So
well, you'd think that, but you'd think that, but I can tell you that based on experience, that's not been the case in many instances. No, because they want to try to keep a joinder at that address. So we have got something that I'll talk to you about face to face, or somebody you can meet who is in your vicinity who can tell you this face to face, which is about what we do as a solution to that. In the meantime, obviously the solution to that is that everybody stops using their currency, and it's coming, you know, and I've said this by, should I say the date on here? 24th of January. And around that particular time is going to be a critical point for, I believe, but all for the right reasons. Due to the way that their mechanism works and the patterns that this code is that they have, that this jurisdiction uses to trap our energy in. So the solution obviously is using the rocks and doing these exchanges and this barter that everybody talks about doing. But if people just could step back and realize you're swapping your energy for slave tokens or now cryptocurrency.
Yeah, we do everything for anyone anyway.
And then you're swapping whatever it is, the token, for whatever it is that you're going to go and sustain your family with as food. And because it's a slave token, you can only go to the slave token depopulation stations, 1367's rightly titled them, christened them, christened Slaveville. And you know, you can't buy shit with kindness credits. That's our strap line. And depending which way you look at it, it's like you can't buy shit with kindness credits. Yeah, because you can't invest in shit. The minute that you start to introduce kindness credits into your community and start to talk to people about it, about how that box of veg that you thought was worth 100 quid so that you could pay your electricity bill is now worth the equivalent of 1,000 quid because you just gave me all of your bills, including your electricity, your gas, your water, your council tax.
And your most valuable commodity being your fucking time and energy.
And your energy, exactly. So instead of you standing there and waiting for 10 customers to come along at 100 quid each to pay your liabilities, you've given me that box of food that you thought was worth 100 quid. You've converted that energy that it cost you to get that box of food in front of me into 1,000 slave tokens worth of credit. The next guy who walks in through the shop door, who they thought you were going to have to give 100, they thought you were going to have to take 100 quid off, is now, you know, it can be 50 for the next one. That makes you as a business so competitive now in the market, because you've just halved you've completely discharged all the liabilities and halved your retail price. You know, you can even go further with that, and then you're in the next column of this energy structure that we've got, that we've already been using, but it's just been kept from us, from the comprehension of how it works. You know, when we've dumbed ourselves down, said, oh, it's too complicated. It's not. You've been doing it all your life, exchanging your energy for the things that you think that you need. But we've just had this third-party interloper called money involved in it, and you don't need it. You just need trust.
Right, and a lot of the energy that we think we wanted was only stuff to sort of escape from the shit that we kept paying into in the first place.
Yeah, you were paying the protection racket that were there to stop you accessing your resources is the bottom line. We've been paying to persecute ourselves for profit.
That's insane.
It is that's the greatest state of psychosis to be in, and then deny it and blame these people in suits and say it's the bank or it's the council or it's the lawyer or it's the judge or it's the government. You know, it's not. It's your imaginary friend called God who is doing this to you because you're born into sin, you know, or whatever story it is that you've hooked yourself into and sucked up like a good little Vatican sponge, you know. So it doesn't matter which religion it is. You know, when you get to that point, you see that those nihilists who believe in nothing and don't depend on us believing we are nothing and in nothing, which is projected onto us by them. It's all written by the same nihilists, getting us to believe in something that is actually nothing. So we're all nihilists anyway.
And indefinable.
But it still stay indefinable. It's only when we try to define ourselves that we start to make a claim that suddenly, well, now if I say I'm this, and because of what you believe, then you're gonna, you know, you might pull a gun out on me because of what I believe. So if I stay in my indefinable state, as this infinite peace around you, and it helps other people do it too. So even when they're in the worst turmoil that they can possibly be in, by you just, you know, giving that very one simple thing to them, is that ask yourself, why are you feeling like this? And how do you feel? Oh, I feel really miserable. How do you know it's miserable? If you've ever had a definition of happiness or freedom, or, you know, whose definition are you using to compound into reality, and why? And so when you write your own glossary, hey?
And well, on that note as well, how you feel, you know, as a result of someone else's definition of happiness or sadness or whatever, you're compounding how you feel if you buy into it.
Because, and it's somebody else's projection, it's not your own, because you haven't written your own set of definitions. You haven't, you know, you've not unleashed yourself in all of these untitled, unknown definitions, because we were taught to fear the unknown. That's the whammy of it all. But all of it's unknown, which is like we talked about in that video when you came and did we documented.
Yeah, and will always be, and that's the beauty of it. In fact, you know, embrace that.
You know, so even when you start to practice those thoughts that take you down that feeling, that then take you to that emotion that makes you want to cry, and if you suddenly and you choose that, you know, that was your choice.
It's just like bullies in school. As soon as you stand up, you realise they have no power. But
but it's yourself. It's exactly. The trap. So you can turn it on yourself and say, I'm the one who's been bullying myself, but with this belief that I need money in order to be able to achieve the right of use of something. You do not. That is the illusion. You just need your trust in universal law, get it all out of the way, and everything that you could possibly imagine can come into your reality. But I'd
love to ask for your trust on what, you know, for me this call's all been about, is partly about, you know, beginning to document everything that we've been talking about. So I know you've been recording it, and if I can get a recording of it and to, you know,
we'll put it on YouTube. Everybody can have it. Of course.
Yeah. My YouTube is on the verge of being shut down after the last few videos I uploaded there, including your one, which got took down very quickly.
Did it?
Yeah. 10
You've got
minutes.
a strike.
Yeah. And
10
then another
minutes
one
it was up there.
was about the UN agenda that got took down after about 20 seconds. Well, I don't think it ever even got public. It was, I couldn't open it. It was gone. And then I got the very sincere, we don't want you to lose your channel.
Patronizing doublespeak.
Yeah.
So before we talk about trust now, we got another order that I want to just talk about, which is absolutely awesome. It was to 128. Once again, amazing what you do.
The shame is just off the calls, sadly.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh right. Okay. Well, they'll hear it if they listen to the recording.
Yeah.
Still recording.
Birmingham City Council thought that they had a claim against one of our MVNs for unpaid rent after the right of use of the so-called social housing has been used to discharge a portion of the debt in the way that I've just been explaining. And so that went to the court as well. So on one particular day in November, the system thought that they would test us and Minister Emoven and give us 3 cases spread across the country, spread across 2 countries, in fact, if you go by the borders, at the same time, on the same day, about similar things, the right of use of a property, an asset, and as to whether they could still imply that they've got a claim on it. It turns out that no, they cannot. So it doesn't matter whether you've got a mortgage, people, or whether you're living in social housing or property from the council, for example. This works in exactly the same way for you as it works for anybody else. And the order there was that because Minister Emoven appeared, so first of all, they said that nobody was representing the account. Then in the next sentence, they say, but someone appeared as Minister Emoven to represent the account, the equity, the account. That because of that, the judge had to recuse himself because he was going to bias himself. Now, what does that mean? That means that they recognize now that it will be the precedents that we're gagging for you to do this administrative system, and you know it, and that's why you're not doing it, which is to make an order to say that a debtor can claim against its creditor. You've been listening to the Zooms, your agents, we know that, and getting your ministerial training. And we've got nothing left to disclose that obviously you're not already aware of. And I'm speaking mostly to myself and the people whose minds that still credit and invest this system of fiction and keep it alive. It's like going over to a dead thing, kicking it and saying, make me rich, give me some money. I know you're not real, but here we go. Here's my assets, my time, my energy, my mind, and my soul. Put into your pot. And then I can scream at you, you've stolen it. So once you've discharged that, this is the response then from the system that we've been getting, which is they act as receipts. So anybody who's in this situation, you can use these are precedences. This is the evidence that once you assign and reserve the rights of your equity, or reserve your universal rights from being implied to be up for commercial activity to be committed against them, then you started on the path of being the official receiver of your own liabilities and discharging them and settling any liabilities. And imagine that you've got a great big ledger in the universe and you're cleaning your soul. So whatever it is that you see in one column, but in other words, however much shit you've got in one column is always the exact and equal opposite of the debt. That it is that, if it was given a monetary value, it would look like this. So you know, we've given up what we believed and been indoctrinated with as our freedom. And really, that's what you're doing. You are swapping one definition, which you've been indoctrinated with. You're not free if you're still counting slave tokens. You're not free if you think that your happiness can be bought. You're not free if you depend on anything else other than your own self to be able to create that feeling of happiness and joy and appreciation, no matter what it is that you've got, and it is there in the now. So that's really what all of this is really about. It's, you know, it's universal, of course, so it's exoteric, it's etheric, it's, you know, it's mathematical.
And also, if I may interject there, just say that you know, they're recusing because they know that it's their system that they're operating within, and that's
they know it's the end.
only...
If that order, can you imagine that order? If they'd have said, if they'd have continued with it, either of those two orders, it was the opposite of that order would have had to have said that the Skipton Building Society have got repossession, isn't it? That's and even when they've done that, they've learned now. This 6 months ago, they've gone to try to do a repossession on a property because somebody kept adding to the administration of that and taking it back into commerce, and then doing a bit more, and then putting it back in, and then putting it in common law, and because they had to exercise their comprehension of what it was by practicing all of these different things themselves, and you know, that's all right as well. Yeah, it's frustrating.
But they're perfectly aware. They're perfectly aware that this is the game that they're involved in. Is, you know,
it's their game back at them, and that's why they can't play it with you once you know the game. Once you know the rules of how it works, the rules of engagement, the game changes, and they can't play because the winning of the game depends on you not knowing how it's played, and that's what all we're doing is sharing this information of how the game is played. Do you want to play it or not? No, thank you very much. My rights are reserved, and along with it, I don't know what it is that system implied was what I was giving away when I said yes to something, or that was my legal fiction. I don't know. I don't need to know that. It's the unknown. But whatever it is that they try to define it as, not having it, because I haven't claimed it. Because I haven't sat there and said it's my human rights, or it is my common law rights, or it is my, yeah, or go and say, even in your definition, you haven't got any. You haven't got any definition because I haven't given you any. You know, talk about jurisdiction. If I'm the one that grants and signs my consent to any of this to initiate or not, and when you start to just simply comprehend that bit, you see that there is a void ab initio, and so just set it up, send it all back to the point where it cannot be started from, which is very simply the point where you start to define what is. You just don't know. You don't know what these feelings are that you might find that you've got for somebody. You don't know.
There was a court case, just for anyone who may listen to this over time, that was very public at the time, with Bill Clinton, and he was asked, you know, is your name something or something, like Bill Clinton, and his answer was, depends what your definition of is.
Yeah. What is? That's it. Yeah. And in the court, you know, saying, who are you? You know, I am that I am, but I'm not that, and I'm not that, and I'm not that, and I'm not that, or whatever that is. And they're screaming because it's the truth. It is if you had to define it, it would be quite a title, but we're not even defining it. If it was commerce, it'd be UCC 96 and 9610. Get that up, yeah, to them. Because they're the ones that use that code to steal or apply, to claim the right that was given to them by you by using that legal fiction. And you know, this has been done before up until that point, you know, the securitization of these corporations, but it's the next step. It was that we had to go around and revisit it. What part was missing out of this? It was the conclusion, the remedy, the redemption. And when you redeem yourself and your soul on behalf of others, and you stop thinking about your own personal definition of freedom, for example, if you're prepared to go and put yourself on the line in exchange for everybody else's rights, then, you know, it's the only thing that you're taking with you when you go is your soul. So it might as well be as shiny as you could possibly get it while you were in this place of resistance. So maybe that's what it is to come and shine your soul upon. Who knows, you know, we don't know. But what if it is? What if it's that you come round again and you inherit everything that you've created? Maybe you've not been told that. You know, there's all sorts of things that we've maybe not given any time or space in our minds to be able to think or imagine for ourselves.
Well, I've given a lot of space and time in my soul to imagine about a lot of what you just mentioned there. And one thing I've come to the conclusion of, which is open to debate all the time, because I recognize that without debate, there's, you know, you put yourself in a box rather than anyone else. Just you're in your own box. So that the thing that you said there that just resonated very deeply is that you cannot define who you are. You cannot define like what this game is. And if you know yourself, then you know nothing. Pretty much as simple as it. But it's also the idea, which is essentially, I am free from the moment I'm feeling, thinking anything, that only through interaction and giving away certain answers can I indoctrinate myself into a system that, unless I play, you know, because there's something you said in Stroud that's very true, right? That of course, you know, this is for people who want to be righteous in a way, not to the idea of, you know, telling others how to think or feel or do or what the system does, but just not to fucking murder, you know, something similar and akin to what the organized religions all talk about, whether it be the 10 Commandments or whatever similarly they have in the Quran or in Hinduism or in any other religion. So those things are sort of inbuilt. I think we have as humanity a very deeply embedded moral code, and it takes a lot of work for mad men and mad people to indoctrinate the masses. And let's just say, from my perspective at this moment, I still cherish humanity, because my God, they've had to work hard to get us to turn on each other, and still here we are, and still here we go. Like, I think they always, at every step of the way, they fundamentally do not understand the human spirit. And maybe it's not the human spirit, but the spirit that is in a human form.
I think that's a really good point, actually, about even though in spite of all of that, or because of all of that, look at what we've all become. You know, it makes you look back on all of the things that you may be taking in the negative and view it with a different perspective, which is where we're talking about changing that mindset from one that is vibrating to loss, or one that is resonating to everything being positive and potential of what you can potentially create with it. Whether and that's your choice. You've got the potential to create anything, haven't you? But and it's at any time, either negative or positive. And you know what our definition even of that is, because then everything becomes positive, doesn't it? And there was something that I said outside outside that place called Buckingham Palace a long time ago about even when you're wrong, you're right, because it was right for you to be wrong right then. So, which means you're always right. And so we can all stop, you know, fighting about it and stop this inner conflict that we've got going on with ourselves. And just put a big circle around all of the trauma, all of the victim state that we come through in the woundology, where we go back to the point in time where we suffered this loss, and you know, even losing loved ones and things.
Yeah, all the idea of reincarnation, coming back to learn lessons when we've learned them very fundamentally in one life, and if we can't remember them in the next, then what's the fucking point?
Yeah. And it's the loss, you know, even that in itself, instead of looking at the gain and everything that you gained out of the interaction that you had with another individual, instead we mourn the loss. But because we haven't been given the foundation of everlasting universal source energy and love force frequency, and it is that which we're fearful of. And if we just peel back all of those layers and restore that trust in the one thing that we can all agree on, is that, you know, when you're in love, you feel it, you feel that vibration. And you know, you look at it and that feeling of deep appreciation that you get if you look at a flower, or you know, the way that the magic all around us, and
the sound of the wind, anything.
Exactly, look through the eyes of a child once more at this wonderful experience that it all is at any one moment in time, and live for it. That's what I believe the whole purpose of this has been. You know, as I was saying to me at Frontex, what's your point? And I was like, my restoration of rights. Well, I haven't got another point. And so now we've done that. And when I came through suddenly there was no the borders, dissolved the borders, and all of this I didn't know about in the background being decided upon inside this matrix to be given to us again around this time of year. And you know, it's very significant that we keep getting these great, fantastic receipts and to be able to share with people. Because it makes for another great 12 months then, because people could just, you don't have to invest all of this time and energy. 1380, simply send one of these copies of these orders out to these other would-be potential wannabe debt collectors or claimants, and discharge it against that. You know,
and we can do it lovingly. We can do it lovingly. We don't have to be assholes about it, you know.
Well, but it's only yourself, really, because they wouldn't be able to do this. That still wouldn't be existing if you had have done these steps. So we've been banging on about this for quite some time now, and it's only there because people become so complacent with it's boiled the frog. That's what we were talking about before. So you know, as we're not on lockdown anymore. We should never been on lockdown anyway, because you couldn't substantiate the claim, but you went and conceded to that. So the next bit that's coming is better that, you know, okay, we're out, but we've got to wear a mask or whatever it was. It's the compromising of our souls. You know, turn the heat up a little bit and then turn it down, and then you can turn it up even
not
more.
Too many notices.
Pardon?
Well, in their game, it's hope not too many notice, because they turn the dial up very slowly, incrementally, like tiptoe totalitarianism, as Dave.
Unfortunately, somebody tipped the pot over and all the frogs are out.
Yeah,
all over the kitchen.
and those frogs are not going back into the pot.
No, frogs want some answers. So, and the answer, you know, the answer is don't get in the fucking pot, frog. Isn't it?
Yeah.
What you do? It's all right, very well saying, no, it's boil the frog. Well, first of all, I've got to get the frog in the pot. Oh, you know, it was what we're talking about here about the emperor's got no clothes. And one of the videos that I did, it's even gone beyond that point. There is no emperor, so whether he's got clothes on or not, you know, that was the story. That was the universe screaming at us. These corrupted versions and definitions of all of these, the history. Whose fucking story? Let's hear yours and let's see it in action. So it's been, while all of that's been going on, obviously, there's loads of new connections that have been made. I said about what happened with 1160 and 2222 over there. They're doing absolutely to be able to know these people or have a connection with these beings is absolute honor. All of these people that you're going to meet, and you know, once you come and get involved, do these steps and You met a few of them when you came down to the meeting that we had down the Stroud. But you know, there's loads of really awesome people, beings that have come together. Yeah, who are open to change, and that's all you've got to be. Just change the way you define yourself. Start with that. And that will be the really the key, to keep it simple for people. Not wanting to brush over anything at all, because we don't like gloss. But you know, leave any of this stuff out. The people who've been doing amazing stuff without any of this. This is just a structure. We're not saying you know, anything that anybody does that keeps them out of the system, or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, we are not in the cult of not wanting to be together because of different definitions. You know, we're talking about the same thing, whatever we call it. And so we want to just connect on that, get rid of all of these other preconceptions about what this is, and come and find out for yourself. So that was really the purpose of this, and we're taking this into the new year, making with all of these new connections that we've made. I just want to say for the record that 22399 fills up my senses, and that's really all I've got to say about 2022, other than thank you to everybody who played a part in all of this, and the wonderful opportunities it's given us to be able to see one another as we truly are, and the trust that we've been able to build based because of all of these things. It's just phenomenal. So thank you.
I can only imagine it's going to continue, you know, completely with more and more people exponentially into 2023, because most people I mean, it only gets more absurd from this point out with the way the system wants to play. So
it's Muppet Show tonight. You know, when you go dressed up as Minister Emoven, and you know, and they're all like, oh, they don't know how to respond to you, because it's like, well, we know that you've just got that outfit off the internet, you know. But okay, well, so what's different from the one that the one that you do go kiss his hand got? You know, it's that in your face. Anybody can be the emperor. They've just got to get a load of people to line up behind them and follow them around and bow and scrape to them. You know, the Zionists have shown us this throughout history, and how to do a psyops. Do your own psyops on yourself, first of all, psychological operation on yourself. Declare yourself psychotic, and give yourself a remedy, prescribe yourself a remedy, you know, of just not doing that thing that you keep doing, which is psychotic, which is expecting anything to change when I keep doing the same thing. Just that one thing. And what is the thing that we keep doing? Using that name. That's it. So there's nothing really clever about it. And it is really simple, but people want to make it complex, and they want to make it complicated, and they want to say, oh, you know, I'd love to join to do these things, but got an excuse. Or worse, that somebody comes along and they say, yeah, I'm going to vet you. I'm going to go through all of this, and then I'm going to make an assessment and then decide whether, if it works for me. Then I might tell my friends. Even, you know, that's not what this is about. If you can't make it work for you, then you've got no right whatsoever to presume that that you've got the right to presume. No, I'm not speaking to you specifically, but to anybody who's listening to this, that we've got lots of people come to us and they're like, you know, well, I've got a group, and I've got a Telegram group, and I've got all, you know, I've got these connections. Okay. And so I want to do it first, and I'm going to learn all this, and then I'm going to see how it works for me. But they don't do it, or they don't get it. And if they have got access to all of these other people of these groups, you are being usurped. That's what I want to say to you. Don't contact somebody and say, what do you think about this? Get on the bloody phone, send an email, and find out for yourselves, because you can't sit there in your non-self-determined state and say, tell me what you think about this, will you? Can you?
Mm.
So they're doing things like this with yourself and documenting these kind of things firsthand. That's the message that we want to get across to people. This is why, you know, the warranty cards are like to give out plastic cornflake packets, because anybody can do it. We're not saying this is the only way and you have to do it like this, or we don't want to know you. We want to know you. We want to know what else it is. What did you do with this? Where did you take it? Loads of things have branched off from this in all sorts of really, you know, lovely community groups and connections. And, you know, I am going to make a special announcement and about the fact that because of universal law, as the coming together of two ministers have created a mini me, which is due to arrive in the new year. So that really is the biggest gift we've got to share with you, that the wonderful emails that have come from these two really amazing people that did some amazing things and got together and they've put it all down to obviously universal law and becoming me, Minister Emoven.
If I can interject there, that's one other thing I'd love to leave on a note on here, is that the more people that even, you know, privy to this information, that are hearing it and play it with one another in their friendship groups, their tribes, whatever you want to call a group of people, but if they're all coming to similar conclusions before they've heard this, yeah, it's not all about doing it the same way and do it your way, but absolutely do something that reclaims who you are to the best of your ability, and share that, share your steps.
I'm going to interject on that. It's not about reclaiming anything. It is about stopping claiming anything. It's about just that you're letting all of that go, all of those preconceptions, like you just said. I agree completely with that, and just stepping off. But you've got all got an added benefit, because you're all inheriting 7 years of people's lives, people's energy, people's rights that they have offered up for you to come and stand upon. And there is an exchange for that. There, you know, there has to be a completely free giving without any calculation or fear of loss or hesitation or reminder, or because so the worst exchange has been when you, as a return on your investment, is that you have to chase after the people who've benefited from this, who cannot keep their word. Because that's what I was going to say earlier on, but you interjected about it is your bond, your oath, your word counts for everything. It creates matter, and so it does matter. It doesn't matter what you've written down. It matters really what you said.
You embody.
You be what you say you are. That's all.
Yeah.
And don't be scared of it. And if you can't be it, then, you know, don't pretend. So just stop pretending. And because whatever you are, any of us are more than enough.
For the most part, most people just need that little bit of a kick up the arse to know that they are worthy, to know that they are enough, that they are powerful inside of their own being. And then they can, you know, they do some amazing things with their energy, with their time, that help one another. I don't know, you know, I've met a few very selfish people, but not many who would actually, you know, spend most of their time not doing anything for anyone else. I think most human beings really do still hold that value, that currency inside of their souls, which is, I feel better when I do something that helps other people.
I think there are more kind people around than unkind, and that they're given the opportunity to do the right thing, they will do it.
Yeah. And the only reason they don't do it, and when they do something bad, or what we can define as bad, is because they're desperate, because they're in a system that isn't really fully supporting them.
But here we are instead with the solution. So let's not finish on the negative.
Absolutely.
Let's big this back up to where it was, which is that it is a wonderful opportunity now for all of these people to be able to use what it is that has come before now, to stand on now and use in the future, and have that as the equivalent of clausulus rebus sic stantibus. There is something that I now know that affects everything that came before now, and in the future. And so let it be universal law as something that you can unleash into your community freely, because it's everything that was stopping is there's a solution for that. There's no excuses anymore for anybody not to do any of these things, which is to stop persecuting yourself for profit. And whenever you feel the time is right, that's when you can do it. That's it, do it. So thank you very much, everybody. Is there anything anybody else would like to say before we round it up? Nope.
Just from me, 010, a massive thank you, because I know it's come at some personal cost to you over the times, but not really, you know. And this is the truth that you said in Stroud is, I'd rather be, you know, in one of their boxes knowing I've got my soul than without it.
Exactly. It's what value. Your soul's priceless. Keep it that way. That's all.
Thanks for everything, and happy new Gregorian year to everybody. We'll have a Chinese one soon.
Lots of love to you all, and I can't wait to see you all in the whatever it is we're going to call it tomorrow. And in the now that comes after the now, in about 24 hours from now, of the now that we haven't got any.
It's the good now.
New now.
Yeah.
In Greek, it's Torah.
Torah.
Yeah, Torah.
Yeah.
So we'll have a bit of that. And then we don't mean Torah with an H, by the way. Before any of them, you know, the culty fan club, it's Torah. It means now. Also
to the men here that interjected along the way, thank you, because you know I was needing some support in the way that you offered it in this call. So thank you. I don't know your names, but that's not important.
We haven't got any. It's Emoven. The name is Minister Emoven.
You got my name.
No, we've got a legal fiction that you keep using, but you haven't got the right abuse of it. So we're trying to preserve your rights from being trespassed upon by yourself and you've the great big feet.
Very really? Soon you'll have my number.
We've already assigned one, but we're just waiting for you to accept it.
Go through the steps. Yeah. As I said, I'm going to be in touch with you over the next few days to get the ball rolling on that. I'm ready.
Great.
Okay.
Lovely.
Well, love to every one of you.